20 questions on 938 Live.
20, 20, 20, 20.
Kiat Goh is my guest, and he's just been introducing tracks from his new album that everyone I have spoken to, and you in fact as well, who chose not to be tied down to a description or a couple of words that spoke to what the album was about. Indescribable, is it?
I studied classical vocal in Russia and in Berlin, and what classical singing entails is you sing in German, in Russian, in Italian, French, English.
European languages.
Yeah, and I've always loved pop music, and I've always listened to pop music since I was young. When I went to Europe to study classical singing, I just thought that there wasn't a kind of sound that combined classical and pop that was sung in Mandarin. So at that point of time when I was in Berlin, I decided, why don't I make an album like that? And I didn't take myself seriously then. I was like, I've never even really sat down to write songs before. So I gave myself kind of a challenge. I said, okay, if I can write 3 decent songs, then I'll decide to make this album. So I wrote the songs quite quickly in about 2 to 3 weeks' time. And when I came back to Singapore, I wrote a couple more songs, and I became really determined to make this album. It became a life mission. So when I came back, I started looking for a producer and a lyricist. I wrote all the material in a couple of months, but the album took 2 years to make.
Yeah.
When you listen to a song and it's 5 minutes, it's over in 5 minutes, but it takes
Of course.
a really long time to make everything in that 5 minutes happen.
Yeah.
On this album, Pluto, I have some jazz influences, some classical influences. I even have some trip-hop influences. So I guess that's stretching it when it comes to Mando pop. Producers and artists usually don't travel out of this comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's usually rock, it's usually R&B, slit wrist ballads, I call it, very sad ballads. Yeah, I'm gonna kill myself after this song, ballad. And then you have the dancey techno tracks. And so I thought, would it be interesting if I had Mandarin songs where I combine a little of each genre? And I've always loved different genres of music ever since I was young. There were periods where I would listen to just pop, I would listen to just hip hop, I would listen to just jazz, and then I'll spend 3 months listening to classical. It comes in phases. But for me, it was actually a very natural thing. When I wrote the songs, I didn't think, I'm going to make this song a bit jazzy, a bit classical. I didn't think about that. I just wrote whatever came to my mind.
Yeah.
And then after that, I would discover, this song has kind of like a jazz, and that song has kind of a classical thing. So it's a very natural thing for me. So I guess that's why some of the press has been calling it indescribable.
Because it isn't an album's worth of any one thing. You know? Is that you thinking about the way it is being transmitted in the end? People are going to hear this one track at a time, and at the end of it, not to say that Kiat Goh is a certain kind of artist. You know what I mean? It's almost by implication. Perhaps you perhaps impose this internet style or attention span on yourself to say, I'm not going to write a whole album of it because it may be trashed.
Okay.
If anybody doesn't like that one thing, they might like something else.
I didn't think about that actually. In fact, the album was sequenced in a way where there's actually an emotional arc from start to finish.
Right.
So all the tracks, I worked with this lyricist called Johnson Ong, and we consciously made the album thematically planet. Like there were talk about. So there's a track called Pluto. There's a track called Belt of Venus, Aurora. North Star. So it's all very planetary.
And it's still not Gustav Holst, right?
No, it's not. So even though the styles do vary from track to track, I feel that there is an emotional arc because they all link lyrically.
Yes.
There is a story.
Right.
And at the end of each track, when it goes into the next one, even though the soundscape is different, I still feel that there is an emotional flow there. I consciously made it that way because I know that in our age, a lot of artists make tracks by track. So I really wanted to make something thematically linked. even though they're all very different in style.
Yeah. And you know the interplanetary relationship is ruled by gravity. So overarching theme, which was the emotional relationship between the songs themselves, is it conscious or subconscious that any given emotion lends itself to a particular style or genre of styles? Or you know what, this would work if this was more country, this would work if it was more operatic, something like that.
Yes.
What is that, a democratic, or is that is just the artist speaking and everybody just sort of falls in line? Do you not need to have some kind of expertise in those fields?
I guess it really helps that I listen to all these different genres. So basically, when I write a song, it starts even with just one melody. I can kind of tell what it's going to be already.
Wow.
Yeah, I know what it's going to be. And I noticed something interesting because I've been writing for my second album.
Yeah.
And I've been putting myself in a state of jazz. You know, subconsciously, all the melodies that turn out are all jazzy just because I think it. For Pluto, I was in this particular state of mind. So it did help that even though they were of different genres, they will all kind of belong together. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. And I think I that's one part of songwriting that I really enjoy because it's kind of trying to figure out how my mind works. Yeah.
Best to explain by another example of the stuff you've put together for this album. So far, we've got diverse, indescribable, but you're going to have to give us some guidelines. So our interplanetary guide is Kiat Goh. He's on today's 20 Questions, explaining and telling us why he's chosen this other track for us to listen to.
Okay, so this track is the title track, Pluto, and it is the first single of the album, and it was played on Yes 933, and it is what we call a slit wrist ballad. So
Don't get any ideas,
okay,
listener.
Yeah, so it has a classical, it's kind of a Ryuichi Sakamoto kind of style, and it's a piano with a lone cello and a lone violin and my voice, and the cello and violin are kind of like duetting between each other throughout the entire track. So I think listeners will get it when I call it the slit wrist ballad. So let's take a listen to this one.
紧握的坚持不在，放逐的心更要不回来，冥王星已被冰除外，从此填写的命运由谁主宰？我不能置身事外，虽然一切都不能更改，我的爱被云海遮盖，唯有等待晨光，唯有等待晨光升起来，唯有等待晨光，唯有等待晨光升起。